I'm Dave Cross. It's my pleasure to introduce you to the Photoshop Creativity Virtual Summit. This amazing online event will run April 17th through 20th, and it is free to attend. Now, you may have seen in the past we've done 4 Photoshop Virtual Summits and 2 Lightroom Virtual Summits. This one will follow a very similar structure, but the content is all new and quite different because we're going to focus just on the creative side of Photoshop. Our classes are going to be taught by a combination of some of our favorite Photoshop instructors from past summits and some of the most creative minds on the planet who also happen to be very good at sharing their techniques. So here's just a few of the amazing artists and educators that we have for you during this virtual summit. Brooke Shaden, Bert Monroy, Anya Onti, Corey Barker, Glenn Dewis, Joel Robinson, Karen Alsop, Kirk Nelson, Lisa Carney, Richard Sturtevant, Sebastian Michaels, Vanessa Rivera, and many, many more. It's an amazing group of educators and artists, and I just can't wait for you to see the amazing classes they're putting together. And the best part of all is the summit is free to attend. That's right, you can sign up for a free pass that gives you access to watch all the classes at no cost for a 48-hour period. And how it works is like this. On each day, a whole bunch of classes are released. You have 48 hours to watch those classes, and at that time, they are archived into our VIP member area, where VIP members have lifetime access to watch those classes, as well as other benefits such as class notes, audio-only recordings, and bonuses provided by the instructors, such as additional videos, PDFs, downloadable textures, things of that nature. So if you want to become more creative with your Photoshop imagery, if you want to sell your work, if you dream of becoming a fine artist or of creating conceptual art, this event is for you. If you wish to sign up for the free pass, again, I encourage you to do that right away and also take a look at the VIP pass. But one way or another, I hope we'll see you at the Photoshop Creativity Virtual Summit, April 17th through 20th.
You're listening to the He Shoots, He Draws podcast, the show about photography, design, creativity, and more, with your hosts Dave Clayton and Alan Hess.
Hello and welcome to a new episode of He Shoots, He Draws, the first of 2023. We've been away for a little while, but trying to get back on track. And I'm starting this year with an interview with a guy who we tend to only meet at Adobe events and through a mutual friend, Tony Harmer. But I do actually own 2 of his books right here. It's got to get the 3rd one yet. But it's Radim Malinic. Very pleased to have you on, mate. Have you had a good Christmas, good New Year? Let's start off with the usual question.
Yeah, I can't say Happy New Year because it's been past the 7th of January. So
I know.
the Larry David meme tells me that it's not allowed to be saying Happy New Year because it's just a few days past the 7th. But yeah, no, it's been a good Christmas. Yeah, I've got 2 young children, and schools break out early. So we've got 3 weeks of Christmas, and this was the first Christmas that I've done, not even Christmas, December. I did very little work, very little client work, as little as possible I could do. But I've been torturing myself in self-inflicted torture because I'm finalizing the manuscript for not just 1 but 2 of my new books.
Oh.
And yeah, you don't really get to do much when you've got 2 young children, and there's Christmas and there's farm visits and jumping centers and all of that stuff. So yeah, I mean, yeah, it was good Christmas. And what I've done, I've divided the mental space, because you can't achieve, you want to give yourself the right space and the right headspace for work. So yeah, it was possibly what I would say the most, I would say not laziest, but like the least productive Decembers I've ever had. So
that's not a bad thing. I think the trouble is I mean, one of my sort of pet peeves of looking at people on social media is this this need to let everybody know that you're on 24/7 and you're like everything has to be shared. And there's a lot to be said for, it's great being busy, but there's a lot to be said for not being busy, but not just because I'm not busy, I'm doing nothing. It's just sometimes to step away, just get on with things. You don't need to report in, on social media. And I know we were talking off air, you've been fairly quiet as well, but not because you've had nothing happening. It's more the opposite. You've had so much going on.
I mean, yeah, I mean, it was the opposite of quiet. I've been working on what I'm gonna be doing this year. I've been working on that in the background alongside my studio for the last 9, 10 months, maybe a year. Yeah, I'm producing something which I feel like I'm at a crossroads of my career where I'm reestablishing what I want to do next, because I've been kind of building my studio for 20 years, built it to the point where I had employees, PAYEs. It's been great, but it's got a question of what do I want to do for myself, because I've built it from my freelance career. And as you know, if you work for yourself, you take a twist and turns that suits you. And as soon as you start paying people's pensions and start sort of having Zoom calls with corporate clients, that freedom seems to sort of dissipate. And of course, I had to remind myself every step of the way that I have to remember when I wanted what I have today. Like this is ultimately the journey that I wanted to take. I wanted to embark. This is the destination I wanted to arrive in. And yeah, I think the best beauty of having a creative career, that it's a shapeshifter. You can change your career depending on where you want to go next. And it's been interesting. It's been interesting change, because I feel like I've started my publishing career 7 years ago, and it's for the first 4 years, I don't think I've given myself a day off. I was, meeting people like yourself and sort of promoting the book, doing talks, flying around the world, pushing it on myself, like trying to see, like, this was the thing I was doing next. And I've diverted my attention to the studio business. And this is, as I told you in the pre-recording, like, COVID was kind to my business, my publishing business, as well as my creative business. But that you can only focus on one thing at a time.
Yeah.
And I've kind of taken a step back from social media, because it doesn't earn me. Like, social media doesn't bring me work. Like, it's the meaningful connections I've been making for the last nearly 20 years. Those were the ones
Amen.
that did work. Yeah. Meaningful connections, and
That's
also it was quite helpful, just as one point, quite helpful to publish book on branding for startups just before COVID, which I didn't know the COVID was going to happen. So that book has earned us incredibly, because everyone got laid off and bought a book on branding and startups.
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, that was the thing. The conversation I've had with a lot of people was how COVID affected them. And a couple of people, I mean, even, we can't, like we said off air, you kind of feel apologetic, or you don't want to say that. Well, we won't say COVID was good for you. The period in which we went through the pandemic, was a struggle for a lot of people, but it didn't need to be a struggle for everyone. It was okay for people to do okay. A lot of businesses sprouted up. There's a lot more, I think, probably more self-employed people out of necessity that are doing really well for themselves. And it's how you adapt as well. You can either sit there and feel sorry for yourself, or you can look at your business and go, well, how can we help people? How can we, keep going? What can I do? I mean, I now can't go to an office. I've got to work from home. How do I adapt to that? And can I learn anything from that I can pass on? So I think it's been a big learning curve for a lot of people, and how we work and where we work.
Yeah, I
Definitely.
think on the way of how we work, I mean, I say COVID was great. I mean, I had to go into therapy mid-COVID. I mean, I had existential crisis. I had newborn son, a 3-year-old daughter. Like, I mean, I was a mess, but the business was going well.
Yeah.
But
doesn't matter
yeah,
about
I mean,
your business is great.
yeah, I was all over the place, and therapy was something that I've been in therapy for more than 10 years now, on and off, and it's something that's not an ongoing experiment. It's something like going to an MOT, like you want to make sure that you're in the right headspace. And having been mostly building this on my own as a business and running the business and that kind of stuff, you spot patterns that, you can fix, and others can tell you that, you're stressed or you're overworked, because as you know, as creatives, you're never finished. You can it's like the never-ending buffet of amazing. You can just, you finish a plate, you go for more, It's like, dude, I've had 7 plates, it's midnight, go to bed. No. Like, we keep going till 4 o'clock in the morning.
Yeah, it's
So
funny. Sorry, just to interrupt, because I wanted to pick up on something you just said there that is really interesting for a lot of people. Is I had a conversation once about like cars, and it was funny that you said MOT, because they said, you know, we go and we buy a car, we get insurance on it, we take it for an MOT, we take it for a service, we look after our car better than we look after ourselves. And therapy for English people is such a, you know, it's an American thing. It's considered an American thing, and English people don't do it. And I think from a creative point of view, mental health and everything, we really should do therapy. We really should speak to other people and get our head back into place, because it's so easy to spiral downwards with your own doubts and fears, and you know, and then a life going on around it, that, like you said, you can have a crisis of
Oh,
confidence.
and totally. And I mean, I've gone through a number of burnouts. I mean, I built initially my business around, you know, working freelance in the middle of the night. Like I would finish my day job, and sorry, my email keeps popping in my ear. To bit it. So yeah, I mean, working as much as I can. I mean, this is that sort of mid-20s enthusiasm. You know, you're bulletproof. You're invincible. You can do everything all the time, and then you find out that you can't. And only when I really burn myself out, I realized how many previous burnouts I had, and it was thanks to my wife, who said, you know, you need therapy, because I was so broken I couldn't walk down the street. I was literally
Wow.
working from a small room. I mean, it was everything: over caffeinated, dehydrated, no social contact. Of course, I thought I was chatting to people through Skype all around the world, but no vitamin D.
Yeah.
So through opening up and kind of admitting that it's okay to be not okay, I've sort of rediscovered the world of mindfulness. Somehow I learned how to meditate when I was in my early teens, which was in sort of early 90s. And mindfulness and meditation kind of has played ever since quite an important part, especially from the philosophy perspective, like how to look after ourselves. Because you do add the oil, and you check the oil and the washer fluid and the tires and all of that stuff on your car. Whereas you wake up, you grind, you go to bed, you grind, you get drunk, and you do, like, we don't really look after our sort of minds that well. So that aspect has influenced how I've been writing in my little books, and how I kind of go in that journey forward, because I'm a perfect example of thinking that we are creative, we are connected with the world, we are creative with the, you know, the creation and how we put it into our work. But no, we are just the same as others. We might be sort of visually inclined and visually sort of enthusiastic, but we break the same just like everybody else,
Yeah,
and
we're
that
not
doesn't make
invincible.
us.
No,
So
sorry, I was going to say, I think you just kind of answered it there. What was the trigger? Was it your wife noticing, or had you started to get your own red flags popping up?
I think walking down the street and crying, I think is quite
Right.
sort of clear. I mean, she's genuinely, like, my wife's always had horses, so I'm sort of based in Surrey, and she's an English girl. She's always had horses. She's got an amazing sixth sense. So she was the one who, you know, I'm the one reading all the Simon Sinek books and Ken
Yeah.
Robinson stuff, and she's like, she never reads this kind of stuff, but she's got a more than knowledge than she can help people with. And yeah, she was the one say, like, okay, you need to do something about it. Like, you actually, you know, it's okay to admit you're not okay, but you know, there needs to be a fix. And yeah, I remember, like, it was interesting. I went to cognitive behavioral therapy because I had anxieties. Like, no, they said, when they say, when you go and tell the therapist, like, I can't walk across the bridge, or I can't even walk down the street.
Mm.
She's like, okay, so first thing you do, you walk across the bridge, you're gonna do this, and you're like, F off. Like, that's exactly what I don't want to do. You know? And so they push you into the things that obviously you've been sort of staying away from. And it's been fantastic exercise, because it has helped me to unlock quite a few things and give me a sort of a vision. And I felt like it's taken a best part of 7 to 8 years to actually get to the point where things were okay, like with the continuous work, because it took a long time to get broken, and it took a long time to get fixed. And, you know, in a normal situation, you would not know that, you know, we have each of us have problems unless we are open and talk about them. And
Absolutely.
I mean, yeah, I think the world is changing, and yeah, I think it's changing for better.
Yeah, I think the good thing is, especially in the creative industry, because that's where we live, the awareness of it, and seeing the signs of these things kind of happening. It's good that I like to think we've got our backs. We've each got our own backs, to help each other out. That we're more helpful, more collaborative, trying to stop people take it all on their own shoulders. And I think it's a big shift when I think back to the design industry 5 and 10 years ago. That now we are post-pandemic. I like to think that we are a little bit more thoughtful and caring. But it's also interesting to see, you've done the therapy, and you're not that you kind of go in and do, I'll do 3 sessions and I'm fixed. It's a continuous process. But have you found, like, now, you kind of you understood it, you processed it, you've been into therapy. Has that changed the way you work now?
Oh, 100%. Yeah, 100%. I think what's interesting there, I agree with you. we have got our own bags, but ultimately we are the horses in the same race.
Yes. Yeah.
We can consider ourselves as competitors, and somehow managed to do during the pandemic a mindfulness journal called Pause, Breathe and Grow, which just explores the topics of how to be okay, within ourselves and in our career, and kind of like, because the first finding from the therapy was that the therapist asked me, like, so what is your percentage of work, rest and play? And the work was like 96%.
Wow.
The rest was like 1%. And she was like, okay, well, here's your problem. Like, this is like, you don't have a compartment. I can't say, like, you haven't divided the sections. That's what I wanted to say. Yeah. So that was the first giveaway. Like, then having an argument with my wife, she's like, "What? Can you take one day off?" I'm like, "Well, I go to meetings in central London." She's like, "That's still work. Like, just have a day off." And to me, in that broken state, it just felt like a totally like weird concept.
Yeah.
Like a day off. I mean, come on. Like, and I mean, when you love what you do, and when you sort of intoxicated by what you do, it's like basically like a bit of like a drunk. You could keep going back for more because it's the dopamine.
Yeah.
So from the therapist, I kind of like, it was the pause. Like, you need to pause and actually take stock of what you're doing. Sometimes we don't even remember what we did a week ago or a month ago. Like, if I haven't spent the last 10 years printing my work in portfolio books, be like, I've got no idea what I did. Like, it's somewhere on my hard drive. The hard drive's unplugged, and I'm like, this is it. And the tears and the client discussions are obviously all forgotten. So it was about pausing and then actually breathing and actually taking proactive action into feeling better, and putting things in place that, before you answer an email, before you answer a phone call, like just put that little headspace together, and then looking into where'd you go with it to grow. So I managed to do this during the pandemic as a sort of mindfulness journal, and it was such a departure from going, look, I've got book on ideas on creative, not on graphic design, all the way to where that book ended up. And it's kind of gone sort of, I've taken a few years to produce, mostly to work on these 2 new books. I'm holding up a dummy copy of Creativity for Sale and Mindful Creative. And what I wanted to do, I wanted to create from the findings that I have from my career so far, a book about how to launch a creative business, and a book that goes with it, which is How Not to Kill Yourself by Launching Your Creative Business. Somebody said that should be the title, but I think that's...
Yeah.
But
it's like the warning sticker on the back.
It's like How Not to Kill Yourself. I mean, it
take
says
these tablets to get rid of your headache, but don't operate heavy machinery.
Yeah, how not to navigate the highs and how to navigate the highs and lows of creative life, career, and business. And I'm producing these 2 books together at the same time because not only they go together, as a sort of little box set, but it's the information that someone might argue, like, so we don't need another book on launching a creative business. I mean, who no one's asking about mindfulness book for creatives, but you open any social channel, you speak to anyone, you have a conversation in a pub, and it's the same conversation that you and I had just now. Like, people are broken, people asking for help, people making the same mistake ever again. You know, like, and someone says like, "Oh, I need an advice on how to do this particular business side things," and you tell them, or that you just give them advice, and they're asking again because then we don't always absorb it. And
Exactly.
And I listened to your guys' podcast with Chase Jarvis the other day, and there's this thing. Like, obviously, we tell ourselves who we are. Like, we give ourselves the label. Okay, I'm a graphic designer, and I'm going to be doing graphic design. Obviously, if I told you I'm a graphic designer after 5 minutes of me telling myself I'm a graphic designer, if I had any body of work, you would think, oh, come on, get out of here. Like, this is, a graphic designer. But it's important to the mindset of, because if when I've done it in the past myself, if I've told myself the label, I got commissions as a graphic designer because I told everyone, and they needed eventually a graphic designer. However, you've got so many layers of business definition, who you are, promotion, client acquisition, client, negotiations, like, it's all of that stuff. It's endless, because you can say, okay, well, what is the work line? Okay, I've got laptop, Photoshop, client, done. If it was this easy, you can press P for poster, and we're all legends. Yeah. But it doesn't work that way. And I've been, and even people who I've worked for or known for years, and they we speak, and they're like, oh, I've got this new inquiry, I need to price it up. I'm thinking, well, if you don't know after 10 years how to price up a job in a click of not in an instant, then you're doing something wrong, because you have to create these frameworks and these methods that help you to actually concentrate on actually doing the work. Because, as you know, creating the work is often the last thing that you do in the creative process. Is the admin, is the finance, is it's the chasing of the invoices, it's the promotion that take more time than creating the work itself. Yet we are all very surprised that, oh shit, it's taken me 3 hours or 5 hours to do this, and I've got 1 hour to do this piece of work. Well, clearly there's automation, there's other things, like there's ways to help ourselves. Yet we are the creative people, yet we keep making the same mistake again. And that's partially the reason why these books will exist, because the secrets are out there, like the clues are everywhere. And you speak to people who are considered less creative, but they are far ahead in the evolution of creativity, because they see things differently. They don't see things from personal expression. They're like, okay, how can I automate the workflow? How can I get an inquiry, get it all sent into my, like, just, how can I get automated invoices? How do and everything could be automated.
Yeah.
And because that gives you the space to actually think and be. Because we think that spending time on the little admin and finessing invoices and that kind of stuff, or just posting on a social, like people clowning on their little reels and pointing at things that appear. What is that about? What on earth is that about? Like, can you imagine yourself being a CEO? It's like, okay, we need a designer. What are you doing? What is that about? But obviously we are from different era, so maybe we just don't understand it. But I just like, this stuff didn't exist 10 years ago or 20 years ago.
Yeah.
And people were busy, fine, and they were potentially earning more. And now we've got all of this entertainment, and people sort of complain about like running a business social media channel and running a business and studying. It's like, scale it back. Like, if you scale it back, the less there is, the easier it gets, because everyone's guilty at the beginning of their career to take on as many opportunities as you guys spoke with Chase. Like, honestly, everyone takes on too much, and I've been a king of taking too much for at least a decade. It has helped me to make meaningful connections, but it has also nearly put me into mental hospital. Like, it's just been too much.
Yeah.
And I think that there is you can never convince. You can take a horse to the water, but you can't convince it to drink. And I think this is a conversation starter. Like, I'm testing something new, hopefully for the benefit of current and future, people in the industry, that It's not meant to be easy.
No.
Creativity is not meant to be easy, but it's doable. I mean, it's basically, it doesn't have to destroy you. If that makes sense.
Yeah. Well, if you wanted to be a car mechanic, you've got so much to learn before you can be it. But like you said, it's like when people say to me, what do you do? The easiest thing for them to understand is I'm a graphic designer, because they kind of know, but then they don't really know, because they just assume you sit and tit around on Photoshop all day and it's really easy. They don't realize your personnel, your HR, your accounts, your marketing, you're the business manager, you're the sales manager. And yeah, the design is part of it, but when you work for yourself, it's so many more things. So wearing all those hats, you are kind of different personalities, because going to a pitch meeting is so much different to designing, so much different to doing accounts. It's tax time. It's January. I've got to submit my taxes for January. So I've got to sit and take a day off and do that. I've got some email marketing stuff I've got to do. And I think you're right about the generational thing, because I was doing a video today for Sense Labs, and it was an artist spotlight, and there were some questions, and it was kind of, the first half of my life was no computers, and the second half of my life was computers. If you took a 22-year-old self-appointed CEO of their bedroom, I run my own creative studio. Yeah, you're in a bedroom and you're calling yourself a CEO. You're not really a CEO. You've just called it that. Let's stick you in a DeLorean and drive you back 20 years. You've got no social media at all. You've got no YouTube. Email marketing is quite archaic. How would you run your business? And they'd melt. But there are so many creatives from that time who are super, super successful that managed to run a business. They didn't have to be in a video pointing, pop, 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 with all these, being on social media all the time. They had to run a business. They had to work. They had to physically go to meetings. They had to pick up a telephone and dial a number and have conversations. There was no Zoom. There was no, maybe Skype, possibly. I don't know. But
I mean, I think you go like pre-Skype. I mean, this is the thing. I mean, when I used to live in Southfields near Wimbledon, just bumped into this man walking his dog, and he transpired to be some famous illustrator from the 50s,
Wow.
And he was telling me like how he did work for Harrods and like for Gucci and stuff. I don't know who he was. He was telling me, I gave him my business card, he was telling me the theory of the color, and like it was the most treasured conversation I've had maybe that year, in that decade.
Yeah.
It was just like, he was telling me about it. I'm like, and how did you get to know Harrods? Like, how did you, and because we used to we create this formula, like it almost feels like the way you learn to drive, I mean, as we keep using the car analogy, let's say you imagine like the way you learn to drive a car, you can almost imagine that you would drive from a shifter, you would drive an automatic, because I've learned to drive a shifter.
Yeah.
Then that's the only way I know. And then we sort of teach ourselves that what we pick up at the beginning, then that's the method. And that's what we're going with. So I have been graphic designer, creative director, agency owner. And my way of earning, how I understand it, is that someone comes and says, hey, I found you. Can you do this for us? When I'm now at a crossroads of my life and I want to change how I want to be earning and operating, so far, I know only one way of the exchange, if that makes sense. I have created a publishing business, which is something different. But overall, like 90% of my time has been spent, my working life has been spent in that exchange. So if you then change it so much that people only know the digital way, where you can actually open your digital window and shout to the world what you think that is the right thing to say, then some of the methods can be unimaginable. Like just how I could not understand how the man God worked with Gucci via Harrods and stuff. It's yeah, things were different. Things were different, and they're always changing. But I think what I think was the impression that we're giving to people now is just that there's shortcuts. There's shortcuts. Basically, you need to be something which you can emulate. Like before, you didn't know who was working for Harrods and Gucci in 1950s. You could see like some of it, and you have to buy a book, and someone had to collect the work in the book, and there was a lot less noise.
Yeah.
and maybe a lot more clarity. Whereas now we've got so much noise, and the filter has been taken off. There's no one verifying this stuff, you know? If you spout some sort of fake news on Twitter, at least it says this is fake news. If you decide to record yourself for TikTok, spouting some utter nonsense about branding, you might have 2 million views. You know, like this is the thing. Like it's an unregulated, it's not even self-regulated, it's unregulated world.
100%. Yeah. I totally agree with that, because I've said that before. There's so much unregulated content, and there's a lot of naive people going into business very quickly without doing the right kind of research, probably because they see the dream, they see all the videos of, I'm going to show you how to make a passive income. Go to Etsy, look up a t-shirt. This guy's selling this many thousands. That means they've made 2 million. So all you need to do is this, and people want to make this money quick. They don't, like you said, they want to take the shortcuts. They want to. When I see things like, I'm going to show you how to earn £10,000 a month. Why? Show me how to earn £2,500 a month so that I can make a living, and let me earn that 2.5 grand properly over a long period of time, not short and quick, not copying, not ripping off. And it makes me laugh with this whole AI thing at the moment. People going, oh my god, AI, it's going to take graphic design away from it, it's going to do this. It's already happening, because there are so many people plagiarizing other people's work for the quick fix, for the shortcut, that I know it's not AI, but they're saying, you know, they're going, taking all this work and making these new images. Well, that's what people are doing. They're looking at the people who are successful, plagiarizing their work, trying to change it slightly and then make a quick buck off it, not realizing there's so much more behind it, and they'll burn out quick, they'll fail quick. And it's just a mentality now.
Yeah, I think there's a number of points that you mentioned. Firstly, why is it always 10 grand? Like, why is it not 12 and a half or 13 grand? It's always like 10 grand this and 10 grand that. Like, why? And also, if you're earning all that money, why'd you bother making courses, for fuck's sake? You know, like it's just like, enjoy your money, you know, just do some despicable things in your Lamborghini and just leave us alone. Like, it's just, obviously it's scavenging. It's obviously it's been no vultures. But the thing about the business, I mean, people don't think of making a business. I mean, everyone can be naive, and there's people not just from the creative industry that they think they can make a product. Like there was a like AI, then NFT, like in the world of business, people thought that CBD was the gold they can sell, and everyone would be like making millions of CBD, and before that something else and something else and something else. So this is just, I think, what I would call sort of mass hysteria based on assumptions. Like people think that something smells good, they're going to chase it, and they'll see, you know, if there's actually just nothing there. But the AI stuff and the, I mean, why so many people look like clowns from the NFT world now is because one good review is not going to make a business, and one bad review is not going to destroy a good business. The problem is, if there's no business, if there's no framework, if there's no something, again, we go back to meaningful connections. It's too superficial. Like it was just like, most of these things are too good to be true. Like the NFT was the greatest example of, okay, we potentially have a chance to earn through creativity, but you don't have a body of work. Like people literally, in my opinion, just turned their Instagram posts they were making for fun. All of a sudden, like they were fishing for Ethereum or whatever it's called. Like, okay, we're going to be rich tomorrow. No, in fact, we're going to be rich in 5 minutes. And then you see the prices going down because you don't build up the body of work. I mean, of course, some big artists. I mean, I know Mike, who's done potentially most amazingly out of it, and you wouldn't wish it on a nicer guy. Like Mike is obviously amazing. People, but then you see the gold diggers, and it just felt disappointing because, of course, money smells good. Everyone wants to have money. Everyone wants to be financially independent, but it was so transparent and so blatant that all of a sudden everyone was talking NFTs. Everyone's like, oh, this is what we're going to do. And people who have spent time and care on building their portfolios, their name and their collections have done well, and the jokers didn't. And, you know, just like everybody else was thinking like, okay, we were planning to do something with the studio pre-craze, and we focused on doing the work we've had with the clients.
Yeah.
And we potentially earn the same and we didn't make a fool out of ourselves, and we still have those clients. We've got that work, and it's that temptation. It's that temptation of like, okay, what can you do? And I think I can understand it if you do it once, if you do it for the first time, or if you like, because I'm very much, from my personal experience, you go blindly into something because you don't know any better, and because that's what you want to do. You really want to do it so badly. You would like, I'm going to do graphic design for free all my life because I love it. And then you realize, if I want to turn it into a business, I need to do a lot more than just love graphic design. Obviously, I need to turn it into a business, and that realization is in many books, is many, like wherever you look on the internet, everyone will remind you that you've technically run a business. Not technically, you run a business, but you built it around something that you potentially enjoy, you love, is your expression, but also you mix in emotions, expectations, energy, all of that stuff goes into that mix, because builder goes on the building side, puts bricks together, puts in a toilet, whatever, plaster, job done. Is that wall straight? Yes, straight, perfect. No one's going to say, oh, listen, Michael, should we move it a couple of millimeters, or should we put, no, that's how it's been designed, Whereas you can have a meltdown just because someone doesn't like the tone of the Pantone color that you've chosen, like that. It's how far we can go with that stuff.
Yeah, that whole feedback thing's really weird. There's a couple of things you just mentioned there. And I struggle to have this conversation with creatives because I know people who went into the NFT world, and I sit, and when I see them talk about it, I cringe. I crawl inside my own arsehole because I want to get away from it. But there was a video I saw once that I just thought was perfect. How it summed up what NFT was for me is, I've got to be careful how I say it, because there's I think it was a bus in India, and all these people had climbed on top and hanging off the front and hanging off the sides, and the guy pumped his brakes and nearly everyone tumbled off. That to me summed up the NFT world. Everyone wanted to jump on the bus really quickly without knowing where it's going, who's driving it, what's going to happen to it, is the bus safe? And then as soon as it pumped the brakes, everyone who kind of jumped on the literal bandwagon all fell off, and they didn't know whether to get back on it again. And I actually say this guy I knew, he was doing NFT, so I saw one of these websites where they were selling them, and I logged on. I thought, oh, all right, let's go and have a look and see what this ridiculous world of not owning something but owning something is. And no kidding, I thought I'd gone back in time and entered MySpace, where you had all the animated GIFs and and no kidding, it was the shittiest art I have ever seen in my life. And then they were making 50 versions of shitty art and then trying to sell it like, oh yeah, but you own an NFT. But it's crap. Why would I want to own that, digitally or otherwise? I don't need that in my life. It's a false economy. And it's something I don't understand. I don't want to understand. I don't want anyone to try and convince me I need to understand it, because I think it's a very, very harmful space for creatives, because again, it comes back to people not putting the skill, effort and personality in what they're creating. They're just doing something to make a fast buck and have no sustainability. They what they're going to do after it, how they're going to invest their money. To me, it just seems like I don't know, is it a snake oil
I think something like that. Yeah,
no, people have done well out of it. There's some good artists, people have done well out of it, and there's been some weird financial things gone on with that world, but it just doesn't feel like a business.
No, and I think it goes to I'm just like yourself. I know people who have done really well out of it, and people who continue being in that space. But those people were interested in the space well before the bull run and all of that stuff. Those people are genuinely interested in cryptocurrency, storytelling. It's just, as I say, if you haven't got the layers then it's just Emperor's New Clothes. And
Yes.
somebody posted this amazing tweet saying like, okay, so all the NFT people are now the AI people, you know, like everyone's about artificial intelligence. And what's interesting, obviously, we don't want to be sort of shitting on everyone just because we can, but the tools, the AI tools, somehow produce very identical results. Like, and especially at least with the crypto stuff, like whoever labeled themselves as a crypto artist, you have level of like, okay, this is my style, this is this. Then the crypto art, like literally labeled crypto art, as you said, like Borat's MySpace website style. Which is brilliant, by the way, brilliant memory of MySpace. You want to crash your like that? You want to see 25 GIFs on the page?
Yeah.
Come to my MySpace. Great memories. Yeah, I mean, this is it. I mean, it comes with aging, and I think it comes with more understanding and being a little bit more conservative about the quick knee-jerk reaction about, oh shit, let's do it, because everyone's tempted. Like if you say, oh shit, you can have a bigger house tomorrow because you're gonna have a couple of gifts to sell. Yeah, great. But I saw somebody again with another tweet saying like, oh, this picture, like some random cartoon BS. It was like, oh yeah, this was once worth a Tesla. And I'm thinking, if that was worth Tesla, then the world is very unfair because that's a piece of shit. I mean, like, what is this? Like, that's a JPEG that even I can draw.
Yeah.
And how is that worth 80 grand or 100 grand? Like, this is why you could see some utter nonsense. And it's like someone's bought it for 500,000. Like, okay, well done for money laundering, but that just didn't make sense. Like the whole thing was like a weird COVID haze dream there. What that? And it all comes back to building a sustainable business that will carry you through the next 20 years, or like we'll give you an idea how you can build on your basics some other businesses, like something that actually is rooted in the logical term. Because yes, of course, now we have books on NFT, but we have 100 years, 200 years books on business, because you know that's how it works. And I mean, I think one of the most comical NFT situations were WWF, the World Wildlife Fund,
Yeah.
for nature, decided to get into NFT space for one of a kind experiences by like I think they sort of got on some blockchain that was more environmentally friendly. They made a headline news that was just like, what are you doing? Everyone's talking about the negative effects on nature. So even those who you would think would make the right choice didn't make the right choice, you know, because it's just this mass hysteria. And people do fact check. Some people fact check, but
yes, yeah,
you can read a headline, go, oh yeah, pitchfork, be going, and then you go, oh, by the way, second line, we don't have to go anyway. You know, it's mass hysteria, and I think if you're keen to pursue something really quickly, because that means to an end, then you're gonna make a mistake.
Yeah, and it is a generational thing. I know, you know, like my two daughters, they're teenagers. You hear those kids, you know, I want to be a gamer on Twitch, I want to be a YouTuber, I want to be an influencer. You know, imagine going back to your school careers teacher and then saying, what do you want to do when you grow up? I just want to play, I just want to make money from playing Scrabble. You know, what do you mean make money from gaming? So yeah, people, you know, there are people online like Mr. Beast who's made millions and gives millions away, and there are people who have made a good living on YouTube creating that content, chasing that life. A lot of them have fallen, a lot of them have got too cocky, made mistakes. Young children see that and they've influenced far too easily. I think it's dangerous for children to not look at an education and look for that fast buck. I want to be that. What they don't realize is YouTube, especially, go back 10 years, how many creators were on YouTube versus how many creators today. So when someone's successful at it and there's 1,000 people want to copy that blueprint, that world bloats, and then it bloats again, but the money isn't expanding with it. The pot of money is getting smaller as more people are taking a bit out of it. And yeah, people do well out of it, and like we said, we're not just shitting on people just for the sake of shitting on people, but there are elements of this part of these parts of the industry that are dangerous and harmful mentally, because people are going all in thinking they're going to make that £10,000 a month because they saw this guy selling a course on YouTube that's going to tell you the 7 secrets and the 5 stages to do this. And then they sign up for these things and don't realize that it's applicable to that person. And another thing as well is when you see people saying, I'm going to show you how to make passive income. I'm going to show you how to go to Etsy, go here, go to Amazon, create these books. They can actually edit their screen when they show, oh, here's my earnings. You only have to right click and go into look at the code, and you can edit the code and make. I could show you a screen in my bank account, showing I've got £1 million in my bank.
Oh yeah, well, make it 10 million to make it better. You're right. Yeah. I never actually thought of that. But I mean, you've got so many points in there. I think the whole accessibility. So in the world of publishing, especially self-publishing, the world is the words are that the gatekeepers have been removed. You can go, as I said, the filter is off, the lock is off, the door is open. Anyone can publish anything, anytime. Anyone can produce any music and put it on Spotify and anywhere, anytime. You can have a podcast. I mean, some people might be listening to like, come on, fellas, what are you chatting? So, I mean, we are liberated. We can do what we want to do, but it doesn't necessarily mean that people will give a toss to listen to it or to and as you said, like that tree of like where the money is or where the monetization, like how many views and clicks can you have? I remember listening to a talk by Matthew Herbert 12 years ago when he said that 70% of music on iTunes was never purchased. 70%, and that was that was a decade at least, like, and that was iTunes, because you can put any album, like especially through a label and stuff. The ratio of what is consumed to what is available is incredible. Think of fonts. We get like you have to like be fonts mastermind to go in, like, what's the difference between this knockoff of circular and this knockoff of circular and this because it's just anyone can make a font, and rightfully they potentially should, but it doesn't necessarily mean they should do it all the time. And like the filter of again, that's a conversation of its own, like just to sort of self-filtering and self-regulating.
Yeah.
So when people see that someone's made it, it's great. It can be encouraged. But again, what's their definition? And you might like this analogy. I found this. It's coming out in my newsletter in next week. It's John Mayer's clinic for Berklee College of Music.
Yeah.
When he talks about defining expectations. And this is a talk from 2008. Love it. It's about him, and obviously John Mayer come across a bit. Like he's one of the most philosophically unusual people in music you would potentially expect for an amount of his reputation.
Yeah.
But I love everything he says. It's great. And he was talking about define your expectations, and he said, in that case, if you want to be a pop artist, you got 4 minutes to make a case. Get to the chorus quickly. Like you've got that many notes. You got a small bridge. You got a small solo. How many albums do you expect to sell? Like what's a success? Define your success. Define this, and that's a kind of like a business plan, or like like a personal plan, personal manifesto. But the definition of expectations is like, how many likes or how many followers will I get? And it's a bit like a weight loss with no bathroom skills. Like you just don't know where you're going unless you got a plan. Like, okay, I'm gonna get into those jeans, or I'm gonna do this, or I'm gonna run as fast. But if you haven't got a tracker, if you haven't said I'm gonna run that split in 4:30 or something, whatever. Like if you haven't got that measurement, you're just endless. You're endless because people are like, well, it's nice to get likes, and obviously because of the controversy, like the engines have sort of changed how they do likes and dislikes and stuff. But there's never enough likes on a post. There's never enough followers. There's never you don't complete the followers. You don't get like the daily amounts of likes. And I think because we haven't done it to ourselves as a sort of active measure of our careers, it's dangerous. It's dangerous. And I've been selling books fairly successfully for the last nearly 7 years now. And I had to teach myself how to build those frameworks and how to define my expectations. And my expectations is that if I print 10,000 books, I sell 10,000 books. That's my expectations. And we go again, like we'll end up print more, titles and work on more. But there is a certain like a preset journey or like journey I've defined to myself that, I make it to about 10 books. And then I've already got other businesses planned, and we'll see how it goes. I've got publishing business. I should be publishing other people's books as well. But I know what I'm defined. But because I've got quite clever and find the right way of advertising my books. My books have been bestseller for the best part of 7 years.
I was going to say that's done really well.
That's very addictive because you go, well, why I'm not number one for the 15th week running, because no one's a number one forever, but it's just like making and learning how to not only do it, but how to understand it and how to expect the next chapter, because Michael Jackson was no longer king of pop. Whitney Houston was a number one for forever. And it's just like that career journey that you realize there's other things to worry about. There's other things that are more real than just a number. I've had some incredibly successful years with the books where I should have given up my studio career and just focus on the books. And I did the other opposite things. Now I'm sort of bringing the books back up. And obviously, when you stop the engine, obviously you have to restart it and, put it in a second gear and push it down a hill. But it's, I could potentially be looking at it as a failure. I could be looking at this like, oh, well, it should always be 100 and it's not 100, it always should be number one. It's number one. But the thing is, that's where the exciting stuff happens, because when it gets easy, you go, well, whatever, Bahamas,
Yeah.
But when it's not Bahamas, you're like, oh shit, I'm going to have a problem to solve. It gives me dopamine, like just to get the brain in the gear. And as I said, I've been working on the new releases for the last 9 months, and I've been stuck for the last 9 months. I've been finding ways of how to get unstuck, because technically I'm an author. I can call myself a best-selling author, but I don't write every day. I'm a designer who designs every day, but I'm not an author. So it's just, if you don't write songs every day, do you still being a songwriter? That's the thing. It's just like, and the thing is, it's just not to worry too much, because there's a certain part of your career where I remember asking Seb Lester in an interview. We used to have a blog, and I said, Seb, so what do you do when you get to the creative blog? And he's like, I don't get one. I'm a typographer. I make typography, And through the years, when I've thought about my process and thought about my philosophy and put the framework, which is, I think, the key word today, is like when I put the method in place, I stopped getting creative blocks. It was more like, we've got 5 options. We can look at 1, we can look at 2. What do we do? And you narrow it down, you filter it down, and you produce the thing that you should be doing. So it's more about entertaining the ideas and go to one on like the best sort of the funnel of output, rather than going, I think this could be my best piece of work. I think this could be my best client work. Like we feel that the work should be about us. Like, we making this, it should be about us. Whereas it's an exchange of currency in exchange for service. Like we try to attach ourselves too much, and we all guilty of sending newsletters going, look at my work and look at my clients and look at this, and people say, I don't give a shit, carry on. And it's an interesting change, because I've been working on this new plan for the last few months, and I've started putting it out there. I've been sitting in my mailing database for, I've been building it since 2007. So there's tens of thousands of people that I don't often very speak to. Sorry, what a crazy sentence. I don't know where I speak to these people.
Yeah.
And I've started doing sort of reveal of the content from my books, just sharing the book, podcast, article, playlist, the kind of stuff. It had like 38% open rate. Like, as opposed to 16 or something, like the most click through, like it just, and people were like, this is amazing, thank you so much. Because I'm like, it's selfless. I'm trying to give back, hopefully not into crazy self-help guru guy, like, no, this is another talk about, anxiety or whatever. But it's sharing what I feel we should know, rather than, oh, look, isn't it amazing that we did work for, the biggest ice cream brand in the world for the last 2 years? Like, no one cares about that.
But
But
the thing is, you care. It's something like the clients you've worked for. You didn't just get it overnight. You've had a body of work. The saying about the books. For me, it's not a case of whether your book was number one. It was the fact that your book was listed on 20 websites of 20 books every graphic designer should own. And I go, I know him. It's like, I was reading, I know him. I've met him.
yeah,
And then when you see your body of work, like how many people that's helping, you didn't just print the book to make money. Your books are super useful. They're well made. They're beautiful. The graphics in them, it's beautifully laid out. It's it's a pleasure to have it on the bookshelf, both of them. And I said I'm going to order the third one tonight because I kept meaning to get volume 3. And
thank you.
I tell you what, they smell great. Your books smell good.
Yeah, you either love it or hate it. I mean,
I love the paper
I've
you print on.
I've had some 2-star reviews because girlfriends of some designers didn't like the smell. Disgusting, they said. But this is it. I mean, you can't please everyone. I think this is the world that we make ourselves believe that we should be pleasing everyone, and it's a bitter pill to swallow when you realize that you won't. Like I had to literally read an article how to deal with 1-star review. It was like that was a new sensation to me. Like the review was correct. I mean, the first book of the volume, the secret is the Book of Ideas, Volume 1.
Yeah,
there's 6 different versions of that book.
Oh, right.
There's 6 different versions. So it's been printed 6 times, and no 2 versions are the same because I fucked up. There was mistakes, and luckily I printed it. So it just got slight iteration, and then I did a second volume, and because it's been reprinted 6 times because that book's done particularly well. So there's a slight differences. I don't tell everyone that, as in like, you can collect them all, but I had the chance, and I'm grateful that people didn't shoot me down going, but your printer's fucked up, or why did you put text across the spine? Why did you do this? Like across the gutter. So we go and we learn, and I have chosen to learn some of this stuff in the public realm,
Yeah.
But there is, when it's good, it's amazing, and when it's struggled, we think, well, that's unfair. But that's just a part of it. And going back to the top of our conversation, like the therapy that I've had was, cognitive behavioral therapy. Me and my wife had to get marriage counseling, and in that I've learned so much more about myself, which also affected my work. Then I went into like anxiety coaching because I wanted to explore it. I've done equine therapy, and you find yourself crying in someone else's yard, standing in the paddock with a horse. And I'm like, I mean, what is my life about? But it's a cleanser. It's a cleanser. And obviously it's a fantastic stuff for my books. There's literally in Mindful Creative, there's a whole section on therapy, just encouraging people to go into therapy and talking about it. Because as one of the therapists said, people come here because they don't want to feel bad. We want to avoid feeling bad. But what they come out with from here is that they learn how to manage feeling bad, because we feel like when I was working on my anxiety, I was like, we're going to cut this out. Yeah, this is I won't ever feel that again. I'm like, 10 sessions later and some £1,000 later, she's like, no, you always feel like anxious. It's just how you deal with it. And I'm like, oh, get out of here. Like, what? You could have told me in a lesson like session 1 and I would have like never come back. But it's that realization that, there's always 2 sides of every coin. It's just like, the careers that we choose can be really exciting, but you cannot replace literally the hundreds of years of how the world has been evolving and how it's been built and how it operates just because something new has come in. That whole sort of gung-ho, hooray Henry kind of, not hooray Henry, but gung-ho sort of approach to like, oh yeah, this is the new fad, it's going to last. It won't. The internet didn't kill a book. Kindle didn't kill a book. We are changing our habits, like podcasts influences how we consume, the information through our ears. But, it still hasn't killed the books. Prince Harry sold, 400,000 copies in one day. of a physical copy.
Yeah.
So yeah, we always feel like, okay, so this thing that's been around in the history of humanity for like 2 seconds, not even that, microseconds, gonna kill the history of publishing has been going for 1,000 years. That's not going to happen. Like we're just getting better at using some of these ideas into the traditional stuff because it speaks to our senses. And yeah, it can be, and I'm guilty of saying some absolutely atrocious stuff in my past, but we think that something made us feel something, and we can't compare it through our knowledge towards being before us or in the past or from our knowledge. So we make our assumptions. So I'm kind of playing the devil's advocate to everyone who got into NFT and AI, but it's honest business is the one that will get everyone the furthest. So that's the part of it, and it can feel in the world of sort of online metrics and doctored bank accounts, that it can feel like you're losing, but we are all, again, going back to the top of our conversation, we are the only running horse in our own race. Like this is our life living. This is what we've got, and it takes fucking long time to go. You know what? I'm on my own. This is fine. I'm running my own race. It doesn't matter. Oh, you've made millions in NFTs. Enjoy. Great.
Yeah,
this is my race.
Yeah.
I'm happy to go home at 4 o'clock and see my kids, and this is the life I live until my last breath. But it can be so tempting to subscribe to the wrong metrics. It can be so tempting, and until you read, because everyone's going to go through that phase, and we'll be repeating this message over and over and over again, because everyone has to find a hard way. Like, I can tell you about it, you can say yes. Not necessarily you, because you've got it worked out now. But if I tell it to a 20-year-old designer, I said, the numbers won't matter. Focus on quality. Focus on connection. They're going to worry about the numbers at some point, because they're like, but the numbers, his numbers. I'm like, don't worry about the numbers. Just carry on,
Yeah.
And it's that's, I'm hoping that the books will do the job that I'm trying to put out there, that spending the whole book about how not to kill yourself by running this thing. It's there's these exercises of like how to be okay, be okay when you're not okay, how to be okay when things go hard. And I found myself, initially I wanted to write it like a sort of stand-up comedy, and the more I was writing, I was like, fuck, this is bleak, this is dark, like, all the memories of arguing with clients, and just being inexperienced, and just being in situations where people don't commission the work properly. You go like, it's really hard running this creative business, and you can be anyone. You can be YouTube creator, you can be 3D designer, like, everyone's got their struggle, but we hide it behind that sort of internet persona. So to remind people that it's okay to not be okay, hopefully it will work.
So when are both the books due out? When's your plan to have
they
them
are
available?
due they're already on Amazon for pre-order, but don't pre-order them just yet. 23rd of May 23. So
5 months.
Just 5 months. They're currently, this is my dummy copy, so they're empty on the inside. Again, the beautiful part of, like, I guess I know you connected to some well-known musicians. I think if there was one sentence or one quote that I can summarize the whole creative journey for, I think, everyone, is that it's a quote by Chris Cornell, and he was saying that he thought if he was being the best musician he could be, the best band in the world will come and beg him to play with the band. And Bono didn't come knocking on the door or whatever. And they had to invent their own dream band. And they did what they did. When you think of their career, like Super Unknown came after 10 years of their existence, and it just got better, and sadly then it stopped. But the career peak, like that 10-year chunk, was how they got amazing, how they connected, how they got the right recognition. And I feel with the publishing business, it's like this is going to be 7 years, so it'll be 6 books in 7 years. So I can't really call myself lazy. But even though I feel like if I'm not creating, I still struggle with that. Like I should be making stuff, but I'm making that sort of the decade long plan that it should be really good within 10 years. I made mistakes, we're fixing them, we're making things, we're learning, we're improving, I'll be in charge of. I can make this whatever I want. This is gonna be in neon, printed in neon colors. It's gonna be, again, I'm trying to change the perception of what it could be. I'm inventing my dream books, and I think
that's great.
This is why I believe that the non-filter, when used wisely, is a stuff of dreams, because no one's telling me to publish this. No one's making me to move my fingers for 5,000 words a day, but this is what I want to do because I didn't know this was possible, and now I've got it. I'm so grateful because this is something that really speaks to my heart. So it's, if I can make one person, read it and go, thank you, I might not make the same mistakes, then we might be okay.
I mean, it must be therapeutic for you to kind of pour out all this stuff that's been building up and get it into a book, knowing that, because that's what I think is good about making mistakes is, and we all do it. We all fuck up at some point. I think it's how you interpret your mistake, but sharing that mistake. I think we're a lot more vulnerable now. Before, men don't cry, men don't hug, men don't share. And now, it's completely the opposite. And I think I have more respect for somebody who shares advice with me because they've been through it and it's relative to me than, I mean, the one example I give to people when I talk to fans of this particular person is I would rather take advice from someone you don't know that I know that has lived through something that I can relate to than a man sat in the back of a limo with his driver being driven to the airport to go and do a talk in Dubai for $250,000, but sit there on a video, an impromptu video, and tell me that I shouldn't care about the money. Gary V.
Gary V, yeah.
There are people who give good advice, and he does give good advice, and he does get on top of things sometimes. He does get it right, but I need someone who I can relate to, and I can't relate to a multimillionaire telling me not to worry about things that he doesn't have to worry about anymore. Even if he did 10, 15 years ago, he doesn't now. So I like it when I'll sit and read a blog post or an email newsletter or watch a YouTube video of somebody I can kind of relate to who's sharing an experience where they're showing the good and the bad and the ugly, rather than just keep going, look at me, I'm super successful, I just hit 1 million subscribers. The metrics they use for that success, and and you can get this too. No, not everyone can get it. Not everyone can achieve that, but we can achieve, like you said, we can achieve our own level of greatness by setting ourselves a kind of line to follow. If we can keep on this line or above, we're okay. If we dip below it, understand why and how we come out of it the other side. But if we just see only success and only failure and nothing in between, our heads are going to be messed.
Oh, absolutely. And when you think of it, like we've got a failure porn and success porn. Like none of it is real. Like everyone's like too obsessed with the failure and everyone's too obsessed with the success. And it's, I mean, why would people watch Gary V on a, because it's this, attention in my newsletter tomorrow. I've got a talk about, it's not my talk, it's a TED talk about how craving for attention makes us less creative.
Yeah.
It's like how I think there's this analogy about pigeons, like if the food's coming, you check on food a few times. If you remove the food, you're like, oh, is it coming? Is it coming? Is it coming? You're basically like, what's the new content on my,
yeah.
And I think is that battle against attention engineers that we're losing. If you allow yourself you can lose it so easily. You check your phone all the time, and I've deleted everything, like all the apps of my phone, so I can only get to Twitter through browser or
Right.
Instagram through browser, so I don't have the apps. And sometimes, especially if like Tories are being a-holes, you're like, oh, I'm gonna check the Twitter, and you buy into the drama, like, the soap opera's going strong. You're like, I should be writing, I should be doing something more worthwhile. But I'm satisfying that pigeon brain going, well, what's there, what I need more. But
Yeah.
it's making yourself realize that the world will keep rolling if you don't check it. Like, it's okay
Yeah.
to live your own story. So
Well, listen, mate, it's been an absolute pleasure having you on the podcast. I've really enjoyed this chat. Obviously, I'll put the links to your books in the show notes, and I really do recommend people get hold of them. And also, good luck with the launch of the 2 new books as well. Be looking out for those. But yeah, in the meantime, thanks for being a great guest.
so yeah, thank you so much for having me. I mean, what an amazing conversation. I really enjoyed it. Thank you for having me.
That was great, mate, and we'll definitely chat soon. So thank you very much, and yeah, good luck with the book, and we'll chat soon, mate. See you later.
Yeah, anytime. Nice one.